How about now? All right, hey everybody, welcome to the Teamcenter Q&A session. I hope everybody has come in preloaded with all their hard, tough Teamcenter questions that you've been thinking about. You know, we've been having a great conference. I hope you've been having a great conference. I've certainly been having a wonderful conference. I think, you know, we started the week with a presentation about Teamcenter 12 and all the investment that we've made in there. And I think we've got quite a bit of exciting capability. And talking to customers through the week, there have been a couple themes for me that I've picked up on through the week. One is I think there's, you know, everybody's relative to active workspace, a lot of interest in what we were showing around the progress around structures. I think, you know, it was interesting to me the work that we're doing on integrated change, where you can set a change context and have the system automatically change. A lot of positive interest in that. I think visualization and some of the work there, a lot of interest. Wow, what a, you know, I thought that presentation from Ford about functional mock-up, functional digital twin, a lot of commentary about that, a lot of interest in that as a direction where people are heading. And then just a lot of commentary about, yeah, you know, the investment that you're making in cost of ownership, performance, that these are really important topics and that we need to continue to drive on it. So it's been, from my perspective, an outstanding conference so far. I hope from your perspective as well. And so without further ado, on to the questions. So I think the format that we're going to do, just to kind of set that up, I'm here. We have Rohit, Bill, and we've got a pretty broad selection of the Teamcenter product management team here to help me out with the questions. They've ensured that when I get the question wrong, they're going to correct me. So we're gonna check for that and see if that happens. And so I think the format is we've got some microphones. We can pass those around, ask your question, and we'll answer them as best we can. So let's get started.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Is there a question already to start? Okay, I don't even have to make one up. Perfect. So we're also taking questions via the app. So if you wanted to go into the app, go to this session. There's a button for Q&A, and you can enter a question, upvote other people's questions, and we can take a look and decide not to answer them, or maybe we'll answer them. Okay, here you go.
Good afternoon. This is Kannan Narayanan from General Motors.
It's a little hard to hear.
Okay, Kannan Narayanan from General Motors.
Welcome.
Question is around you have a clearance database product. You know, we are looking into that right now. I've not seen anything on that the last couple of years, but that's besides the fact. You have a PMI, you know, model-based definition is big. You have variation analysis product. Are you trying to tie these together? You know, you can do clearance, database gives you results, tight clearances. Can I trigger, go take that into variation analysis from there, or trigger a job to go do a simulation on that?
Okay, just so can I repeat? I think the question was around our VSA product, and you know what's our direction on that, and can we comment on that? We've got Killian here, our product manager responsible for that area, and Killian, can you take that on?
All right.
And I would ask all the PMs to stand as you answer, so everyone can see you.
Can you hear me? All right. So repeating the question, I think you want to tie a couple of things together, right? Like VSA usually stands for the traditional tolerance stack-up, tolerance simulation, and clearance, the clearance process usually is one where you say, I have requirements to say, this is zero clearance, this is a certain distance clearance. And can you elaborate a little bit as to how you want to tie those together? Like why, I kind of see it from a nominal perspective, but then my assumption is you want to have like the max variations. So maybe let's be clear right now, obviously that functionality does not exist, right? Is it a good idea? I think my question would be, how many issues are you seeing in your products that you would try to eliminate if we had that capability? Okay.
And so, Killian, just for the audience that might not be able to hear that, can you kind of repeat that dialogue? What was the answer there?
So my assumption is the answer was yes. And I think the other response was, yes, there is a ton of tight tolerance topics that you want to be able to investigate before you hit them. Okay, all right, so maybe we can talk offline some more, but thank you.
Okay, good question, thank you.
Thanks, Gil.
All right, another question, don't be shy.
Oh, got one right back there.
Hi, I'm KV Rao from Honeywell. Do you have any plans to integrate with performance tools like, say, Dynatrace? Because the general manager which you have has a limited capabilities.
All right, just to repeat the question, do we have any plans to integrate with performance tools like Dynatrace? Because the journaling tools don't have as much capability as a tool like Dynatrace. I'll answer that and maybe pass it over to Rohit for further comment. But I've had a number of requests for integration with Dynatrace. Who in the audience here is using Dynatrace? Got a couple of hands up. And so, so what Dynatrace is, and I'm going to say it, and then maybe the people in the audience that are using it can correct me when I'm wrong. It's a tool set that you can put into your infrastructure, and it does extensive logging of the transactions that are going on and the load that my understanding is it allows you to kind of peer into kind of that transactional environment and understand what's going on. Now, George, you raised your hand, or the gentleman that asked the question raised their hand. Maybe you can give a quick summary for the audience?
Yes. What the Dynatrace tool does is you can set the agents on Teamcenter client and server, and it will identify the hotspots both at code level, JBoss or application server level, database level, and it will give you where exactly the query is taking the maximum time. It can also identify if there is any network related issues at a particular site level. It also has a capability to identify the line of code which is causing the hotspot or the bottleneck.
Okay, and Rohit, I don't know if you can comment in general about any plans we might have there.
Yeah, not specifically about Dynatrace, but in general, I think Joe has embarked on objective for all of us to include more profiling, performance analysis tools and capabilities in Teamcenter in a dynamic or operating environment, so you can figure out some of these hot spots. So that is part of our, we started on that journey in Teamcenter 11 with managed admin data logging, monitoring. We're synchronizing that. We've got agents that go in, and we'll start to push that out, that come out with some error messages. Then we have Deployment Center, where we're, as you saw in the presentations, we're trying to make that more dynamic and give you dynamic feedback in your operating environments. That's all part of a journey and a plan, and we are chipping away at that. What that means is, for Dynatrace, for example, or other such tools, we will provide the hooks in there. We'll have may have our preferred tool choice, but those hooks will enable you to link in your tool choice. That's how we'll architect it. That's about what I can say.
Okay,
Yeah.
super. All right, question?
Mine's pretty simple. I'm trying to think simple here. So I'm not a system administrator, but I work supporting NX and Teamcenter for a long time. I know you guys on 11, we're on 11 point something, 2, I think. You guys made it harder for us to delete stuff. And I would like to ask you guys' team to think about that, and the next time we go up to delete stuff. We've spent hours trying to delete one item, and it takes an act of God sometimes. So anyway, I just want you guys to think about maybe making it easy for us to delete, or come up with something that we can do. We struggle with that as a user base.
Yeah, okay, so just to kind of summarize that question, and I think as, I look at a lot of customers and their databases, the size of the database, and, we have database, I tend to judge the size of the database by the base table at the base of the database, and, we see billions of objects in there, and, there is desire to remove some of those objects. So it's a good question, how can we be more effective at deleting those? And Jason Foltz is going to comment on that. Jason? Yeah, and hard to hear you, Jason.
Thank you. We'll be adding deleting items and folders and simple objects in 4.1. And then we're looking at more complicated objects. Of course, the problem is you have to get things out of workflows and destroy relationships. So we are working on it. The other option, do you want to talk about Nearline Archive at all?
Okay, thanks, Jason. Another option that we can look at is with...
And then, Guy, if you could maybe get that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Another option that you can look at from Teamcenter 11.4 is the introduction of Nearline Archive. So that gives you the ability to archive from your production instance into a separate Teamcenter instance. Covers both metadata and file-based data. And there were specific enhancements added to the platform to support deletion and make that easier.
What did you call that?
Nearline Archive.
Nearline Archive?
Send a slide to anybody that wants.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Please feel free, come up, see me. I can provide you with some details on the archiving capability. So.
All right.
All right.
Paul?
All right, Paul.
I picked an easy one.
Thank you.
I even asked it last year. That's how easy it is.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not. It's good. So PLM World and beta testing and the Active Workspace ECI have all been awesome mechanisms to engage with development. and so my question is, how do we keep that conversation going when we leave after this week? I know that the community blog is part of that, but I'm wondering where my IPD and SDPD ECI experiences are.
Okay, so maybe I think between Rohit and Bill, if you guys could comment on that.
Okay, good question. I think you've been involved with the ECI and beta. We had a few topics selected. We did not have all the topics in there. So I think that's a good comment and question. It's a good idea as well. So we'll have to look at how we can set up focus sessions where we bring in outside of the beta customers into learning sessions as to, okay, hey, come play with SDPD for 3 days. We'll set up an environment, something like that. So we'll take that in advisement and have a pseudo beta so you can set up, you'll have an environment that you can come and play with. The other option here, let me finish here. The other option here is we are setting up perhaps some cloud environments where we might have a focused with populated data sets where you can do it remotely in a hand-holding session with us. How do I do this? Okay, so those are good ideas, and we'll probably talk and come back to you with okay, what can we do there?
And the only other one there, Rohit, is the roughly monthly Active Workspace ECI calls are super effective. Lots of chat, lots of interaction with customers. And not that we would have an IPD one every month or an SDPD one every 1 month, but if you did even 1 or 2 a year to kind of engage the community, I think hijack one of Rob's, right?
Yeah, that's not so. One of the things we've ideated on. I don't want to hijack Rob's. We got one of the things we've ideated on is a remote chat with a domain product manager session. So let's say it's a topic by domain, and let's say it's SDPD one day, configurator the other day. That way, we plan it out in advance, and we have 1 or 2 hour session remotely. We do a little bit of show and tell, and then just have a discussion and dialogue. The point is, it has to be planned in advance, so we get not 1 or 2 people on it, but enough so that we're covering a broad spectrum. So that's something we've ideated on. Maybe that's what we'll start with, similar to the ECI session, a little bit show and tell, and we're on our way. Bill, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think that there were great references there to the ECI program. I hope for everybody that's in the room here, if you're not involved in the ECI program, Rob Reich here, who runs our Active Workspace program, is the right person to talk to about that. And then I'll just highlight that, we're committed to have a beta every year. We had Teamcenter 12, 11.5, and Active Workspace 4 beta about a month and a half ago. I thought it was a super event. We had strong participation, and we're looking to work with all of you on beta as we move forward. I think it's a great event.
Joe, I've heard rumor that you've talked about reducing cycle time on bug fixes from Siemens. So for those of us who are used to a fairly quick turnaround time for SAP, what are you doing to come closer to that model?
Yeah, I'll answer that maybe in two parts. I really, just in terms of reducing cycle time, we have internal objectives within LCS to be able to reduce our cycle time by 20% on responding to PRs. But another part of that I think is really interesting is pretty much every customer I talk to in their deployment of Teamcenter, they want to be more agile. This idea that you roll out some functionality every year, every 2 years, there's tremendous pressure for innovation and to be able to move more quickly than that. And so, when you saw in a lot of our discussions the focus on cost of ownership, a lot of what we're focused on is how can we make it easier for you to consume when we do produce fixes. I've talked to customers large customers, where we've done custom patches for that customer, and they have not consumed that fix because the physical act of rolling that fix out is too hard. And so, part of the solution is we have to provide the fix. Part of the solution is the fix has to be deployed. So you've seen Deployment Center and all the focus we have there. We talked about how, we're working on, a lot of the fixes are in, on the UX side, and those can be deployed more easily. Some of them are on the database side, and they involve a database upgrade. But for both of those, we're very committed and we're very focused on making that easier. So you see us talk a lot about Deployment Center. You see us talk a lot about cost of ownership, and that's really what's behind, us driving on that. Because, we know that as everyone out in this room is an environment where everyone is expected to be agile and everybody is expected to be able to move very quickly with improvements, both functional and fixes.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple questions in the app. Regarding training for Active Workspace, are there ways to link to policy, procedures, training right from the Active Workspace in an uncluttered way, tooltip, hover, hyperlink, etc., so users can get to customer configured job guides in context?
So you were wandering right over towards Rob while you were talking. Is that because? So Rob, I think that's a Rob.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay, we're going to have Mac. Okay.
Good. Hi, I'm Mac. That's a great idea. We are completely aligned. So we actually have a project we're working now for hopefully the fall release, maybe a little bit later, to enable what we call rich tooltips. Like you think about Office, it's not just a little piece of text, it's got a little info and things in there. So we want to grow that, and we want to do that in a way then that you can extend it. So our idea is that we get out of the box much more thorough tooltips with richer content in it, and do that and open it so that we know you need to often to hook it to yours. So whoever put that question up, come see me afterwards. Oh, good. Love to talk to you about it, because I think you're totally right on. We don't think you need hundreds and hundreds of pages of our documentation. We think you need a little bit of from us and some help connecting it back to yours. And there's also been some cool things that customers have done just within the product itself. So one customer, on their change orders, they have an additional tab called Help, and they used our HTML panel to sense what group you were and what you're working on, and then call their internal documentation system and bring help guides in there. So let's definitely talk. Anybody else interested in that help training problem, come see me. Yes, you can, in a command itself, yeah.
You can add a custom command through configuration now. So add a custom command to the location that you're interested in, put an HTML panel into it, and then you can point that HTML panel to external content. As long as that content's coming from the same server, you won't trigger any cross-site scripting protections, right? So you can take and have a series of HTML files and pull them into these commands. The commands can also be sensitive to role, right? So maybe the help I offer for one person is different from another. So we're not, I mean, what Mac's doing is definitely, what I'm doing actually, what we're doing is the next step. But right now, if you want to talk to us, we could give you some guidance on how to create a custom command with an HTML panel that could pull an HTML file in and sort of give you context-sensitive help already.
Okay, super. More questions?
Who's got the next question? Oh, we got one up there.
Okay.
So we talk a lot about disruption at this conference, and specifically how the manufacturers can be disrupted if we don't evolve. So what do you see in your product as the potential disruptor?
Okay, so the question, just to restate it, is, we talk about disruption and, helping our customers, be disruptors as opposed to being disrupted. What do we see as disruptive technologies in our industry? I think the most obvious disruptive technology that we have in our industry right now is cloud. I said in my session, AWS approaching $20 billion in revenue, growing 50% a year. If you think about that, $20 billion in revenue, 50%, that means the growth is $10 billion. They're growing $10 billion in revenue next year. And that's an incredibly disruptive transformation that's happening in our industry. And so that's something that we've embraced, and I talked about, and I think we've had sessions where we've talked about the work we're doing to move Teamcenter to the cloud. And I think, just to go through that a little bit, the first part of that, and Active Workspace is our cloud UX. In the cloud, you have to have a web UX. Active Workspace is our cloud UX. The second thing is you need to run and work on the cloud platforms that are out there. We're certified on AWS. We're certified on Azure. Those are the two major players. We'll be certified on other platforms based on business needs. And then the third thing is, as we run in the cloud, we really are focused on what's called cost of goods sold. And we have to be more efficient in our utilization of hardware and resource in the cloud. And so we're doing a lot of work in Teamcenter to make Teamcenter more efficient in that way. That's a really obvious disruption that's out there in our industry. I think another disruption that's out there in our industry is this new generation of children that are coming into the industry, and they have very different expectations for how they want to interact with technology. And so I think if from the perception of, we talk about user experience, but that whole gamut of how we present our technology for people that are coming from a very connected, very mobile, gaming, that sort of background. And so what we're doing in terms of offering our software on those platforms and making it work in that way, I think that's a huge disruption in our industry. And I think that's a disruption for us, and I think that's a disruption for you as you bring people into your company. So those would be two. Rohit, I don't know if you want to, or team, if there are other ones that you guys. Okay.
All right, over here.
Yeah.
Lenny Kirk Escalada, now Metal Toledo International. My question is that in our company, we use the CAT tool to do product configuration, and unfortunately, our CAT provider deprecates this functionality. Now we're looking into RuleStream. And for sure, senior management is now worried that if we go with RuleStream, that Siemens also at some point will stop this product. So can we get a message from Siemens now that RuleStream is really strategically set, especially now if we talk about product configurator and how this all plays together?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll just give a brief answer and then maybe turn it over to Rohit. And I'll just say we're 100% committed to RuleStream. And within our strategies, we move forward with Configurator. We're incorporating that in Configurator. But Rohit, maybe add a little bit more color on that.
So Lenny, yes, I think to follow up on Joe's answer, I think there is, I think, a session where we are talking about configurator and the whole end-to-end from all the way from variant matrix to CTO to ETO and the conversions with our new product configurator there. So that is, there is conversions happening, but we are definitely committed to the ETO space with the rule stream, et cetera. So if that helps, yep. Okay.
There's a pretty related question on the app. Who is the end-to-end owner for use cases which span across different Teamcenter modules? Specifically, who owns the strategy and direction for sales, marketing to configure a product and visualize it from customer-facing sales configurator? This spans product configurator, BOM management, JT, web-based visualization, and integration to sales configurator modules.
Okay, so who owns that end-to-end process? It's in Rohit's team, and so I'll let Rohit answer on that.
Yep. Who has? Can you raise the hand? Who has that question? Okay. Yeah. So we have. I mean, most of the product management is here, but some of the configurator folks aren't. We own. You have multiple domain managers in my product management team here. We've just implemented, and probably Joe will get a chance to talk about our SAFe and arts and strategy with that. But we talk amongst each other as the domains intersect to satisfy business use cases. We identify dependencies for our development team and work with them very closely. So that's the general process. So really it starts with the product management team, but specifically for your sales configurator, we are not offering our tool in the market as a sales configurator, but definitely as the engineering and the product configurator that interfaces with your sales configuration tools of choice. So it has been designed and architected in a way that is easy to bring in your choice of sales configuration. That is a very fragmented and a lot of players in that market and a lot of different solutions that customers can use and put into production. But our philosophy remains architecting it in such a way that it interfaces as a piece with the rules and constraints, follows that up seamlessly with the sales configuration tools, and allows you to implement what you need. So if you have further questions, please reach out to me afterwards and put you in touch with more details around that. And perhaps Joe can articulate more on our SAFe and whole strategy of the domains.
Yeah, and just in terms of how we organize ourselves to make sure that we're offering complete solutions, and also to respond to another disruption that's out there, which is this agile. We've recently within Teamcenter adopted scaled agile framework as our agile methodology, and under this we've organized ourselves into what are called these agile release trains. And so configurator is kind of a complete agile release train with a single product owner and development owner. And so all of the work that we're doing around configurator is collected and combined in one place.
Okay, got another one right here.
Justin Malsom with Micron Technology. So I'm very excited what you guys are doing with Deployment Center. I think there's great opportunity to really drive the cost down. But are you guys looking further in regarding how you package and get things available to us? And the context is 3.4 AWC, great, 4.0s coming out. Those types of functionalities we want to consume faster than we're able to consume the whole Teamcenter environment. So like 11.4, 11.5, 12.
Sure.
So it'd be nice to be able to get the functionality without having to do a whole Teamcenter upgrade.
Okay.
So that packaging up front, are we looking at separating that somehow?
Yeah, and so just kind of restating the question, what are we doing, Deployment Center like it, what are we doing in that vein to, as we move on this 6-month cadence, Active Workspace 3, Active Work 4, 4.1, et cetera, that what are we doing to offer you packages so you can consume that quickly without a full database upgrade? And so Rob, I guess we'll take that, and then I don't know if Bob.
Yeah, I'll start, and if there's further questions, I'll let Bob jump in. But so with Active Workspace, we've a few years ago did what we call app platform separation. So it enables us to make sure that the APIs we use from the platform are public APIs, and so that we can release Active Workspace on top of that without changing the platform. So you can upgrade just with Active Workspace without having to redo or deploy a new version of the platform. So that started in Active Workspace 3.0, so it's been a few years that we've had that in place. What it allows you to do is, for example, up until the 4.0 release, we've supported a minimum version of 10.1.5 and 11.2.1. So if you were on a later 10 version or 11 version or that version, you could apply just the Active Workspace overlay and then upgrade your Active Workspace at a more frequent basis without changing the platform. Now what that means, and we have a table, and we're actually improving the table for 4.0 that shows you what features you don't get. So if something was extended in the platform that we exposed in Active Workspace in that release, obviously you'd have to have the platform. But if it's functionality or UI components that we did inside of that release, then you can deploy that version of Active Workspace and realize that benefit without upgrading the platform. Now, I know there were other conversations that, yes, when we deploy Active Workspace, it's not just the client, it is some server functionality, so it does update your install there, but it's like a separate layer on top of those APIs that are made public in that base framework. And so I'll kill another question that was on the backlog there too, that someone asked about 4.0, whether or not it supports what's the minimum version of it, or what does it support a 10 version. So we, as I said, for the 3 series, we've supported 10.1.5 and above. But when we went to 4, we added support for 12, and we dropped the support for 10. So you will need 11.2.3 and above for Active Workspace 4.0. And going forward, that will stay the same until we up the number and introduce a new version. So that doesn't answer deployment center piece, so I might not have got your whole question. If there is a further clarification, let us know, and Bob can probably hit on the deployment center specific parts. That answer the question?
Let me just add something. I'm Bob Donovan, Product Manager for Deployment Center. I know that I think what's behind that question of not wanting to take on more in the update is that over the last few years, the foundation upgrade or a foundation patch has gotten really expensive. It's gotten very hard. It takes a lot of time. I think if you saw my presentation on Monday, you'll notice that we have now changed the direction of that. We're heading it the other way. And we showed you some statistics on how much faster it's going, how much easier it is, and it was just our first step. So we have a lot of plans to make that easier for you all, and our goal is that when a new patch comes out, you, instead of saying, boy, I don't know if we have the time to put that in, or it's going to take too much effort, instead you'll just plop it in the deployment center and deploy it out to all of your machines, and it'll be a real easy update. Same as what Joe is saying about a patch. You need a fix done, yet it might be too expensive for you to put in. We're going to change that with the deployment center and make it much easier for you guys. So keep an eye on us.
All right. All right, George. We had a question with George here.
Good afternoon, George Herman, Ford Motor Company. First of all, I'd just like to thank you, Joe, for all your help. I've seen a major change since your leadership over the last year and a half. Really, I think, seeking to understand versus defend, which I truly do appreciate and really an advocate. So big thanks to you and your team.
And thank you for all our work together. I think it's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. My question is similar to the installation. So as you guys know, our installation to do a Teamcenter Active Workspace upgrade is almost like launching one of Paul's rockets to Mars, right? It's just a huge effort for us kind of around the clock, 2-3 day weekend across 6 sites. Can you touch a bit on what you're doing to kind of improve the timing? Because I know you've made some significant improvements in that space, but what's the plans around improving kind of the overall amount of time it takes to do an upgrade?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll start the answer by saying, with Deployment Center, we've been out talking about Deployment Center for a while now, and, I've talked to a lot of customers and kind of, people like say, this is great, be able to install the software more easily. We've got complex deployments. This is very helpful. The next thing you need to really help us with is that upgrade weekend. That upgrade weekend is a major stress point, and just upgrading the database can take 10 hours. What if that doesn't go right? What if I'm in the middle of upgrade weekend, I'm upgrading my database, the database doesn't work, doesn't upgrade. I've got my whole business coming in on Monday morning, and I have to be ready. And so we're very focused on that problem. As a starting point for that, we've been collecting from a lot of different customers, and I would, I hope with Mukunda and Bob here, I hope I'm not putting them too much on the spot, but we've been collecting timing information. I find that every customer I talk to has a chart of upgrade weekend and what they're doing during upgrade weekend and where all the time is. And we've collected those. I think we're over 10 customers now where we have that timing, so we understand where all the time is. And we've done a set of stuff to, there's some low-hanging fruit there, and we've been able to reduce some of that in terms of, we've done certain things repetitively, assuming that you might be upgrading from 10 via 10.01, 10.02, 10.03, and if you're really starting, or 10.3, and if you're starting there, you don't need to do all those. And so we're squeezing time out that way. But then another thing I'll just say that we're working on is we're working on, frankly, rethinking that database upgrade. And, what can we do to make that database upgrade something that doesn't requires very limited downtime compared to what it does today. And so it's something where we're making immediate gains now, and then we're looking at it from an overall perspective about what we can do to be even better. So hope that answers that.
Yeah, I think another point is really around recoverability. So if you run into an issue, can you recover from it versus having to roll back all your other sites, right? So ability to kind of figure out a way to move forward.
Absolutely. And then what I would just say is, right here is your deal team. Guys, stand up. Bob, Donovan, Mukunda. So, these gentlemen right here are the guys that are solving this problem. So feel free to come up to them and tell them what you're experiencing.
All right, we've got another question right over there.
So Dana Ward from Electric Boat General Dynamics.
I want to note that Dana just completed a half Ironman. I find that impressive.
Thank you. I wanted to reiterate what George said. Joe, thank you very much for what you've done for Electric Boat and here with PLM World. So my question is with agile deployment and with increasing the ability to install different packages more succinctly instead of full upgrades of Teamcenter, the deployment notes is something that we talked about ourselves. That's a struggle. How are you going to keep up with that? If you start deploying faster, how do you make sure that you've documented the impact and all the APIs that are affected? Those are some of the things that we use a lot of customization in our industry or our company, and we find that we've been impacted through an upgrade that we weren't aware of because we had trouble getting through the deployment notes. So is that something that you have on your target?
Yeah, great question. And so I'll take that. Or is there? Well, let me take it, and then maybe you can jump in on it. And I think that to me, there's this overarching environment that we're all in of being agile. And agile is about moving forward quickly, but it's no good if you move forward quickly and you don't maintain quality. And so how is it that we're going to be able to move forward quickly and maintain quality? And I mentioned that we've moved to the Scaled Agile framework. A part of that story I didn't mention is that we have converted the entire Teamcenter development team to use Polarian. So we're using our own ALM tool to run our agile development process. And as part of that, every change that we make, we're tracking in Polarian. And then we're ensuring that as we prepare the release notes for a release, that we're sweeping through that Polarian database and collecting all that information and making sure that it's fully documented. So we have to be fast, but we also have to be thorough, and we have to have the quality that we need. And so that's at a top level. But Bob, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, there's a second part to that, and what I was picking up in your words is that when you do an upgrade, there's going to be a set of manual steps for you to perform, and these are typically found somewhere in our upgrade guide and scattered through a lot of other guides. How do you know where to find all those? And I think the old best practice for us was to document them, and for you, you would produce cheat sheets and things to teach your IT department how to deploy the software. We're now seeing that as a a not so good best practice, and so we're changing ourselves first by automating everything. And so we're hunting down all of these manual steps. In fact, I'm involved, Mukunda's team is involved, and we're converting anything that says do this written down to an automated step. And we want you to do the same thing. So in our deployment center initiative, you have the ability to take your custom software and any manual steps that you have written down and automate them so that plugins are automatically deployed to the right place, data models deployed to the right place, preferences are automatically installed. You don't have to write it down and tell someone to do it. And so that's where we're heading. We want you to head the same way. And through that, we can get to more agile, more continuous integration, continuous deployment.
Super.
Continuous integrations and continuous deployment, right? How to validate your environment. I mean, you are getting the patches or things quickly, but at the same time, when you do that one, how do you make sure your environment is good every time, right? So as we are doing, in out of the box, we are adding a lot of automated tests, right, to validate the environment. We go through a lot of things. Same way, we expect, your manual tests, you will be adding a lot more automated tests. And in deployment center, we are going to provide the hook. You can plug in your automated suite of tests into our deployment center that not only deployment center does the upgrade and it also runs as part of your continuous integration testing, and also so that your environment is good. That's the support we are providing.
Super.
All right.
More questions?
We've got time for one more I want to take from the app, and then if you guys want to hang around after, we'll answer more, but I know we're almost out of time. Is there an overall application integration approach / strategy on how the data to be shared is identified?
Okay, so this is an overall approach for how we identify what data we want to have shared, across all of our applications.
No.
Okay, Rohit, I don't know if you want to jump in on that and start with that.
Yeah, so we are application integration, yes. So we, first of all, understand that when you use Teamcenter or any of our portfolios, it doesn't stand alone in your environment. There's multiple integrations needed. So Joe and his management team has been looking at this idea of federated and how we come up with the next generation strategy around application integration. However, before that, today, I think we have our active integration. I think there was a session. Matthias is in the room. Matthias, we had a session on active integration. And under what we have in the active integration today, we have, of course, the TASIS components that are adapters that can be used for a multitude of for integrations. We have our Teamcenter integration framework, and then we have LDF. We use that with our, for example, ALM, PLM integration, and we continue to build that out. It's the newest component. And it's, of course, based on OSLC. So in any given situation, an application strategy will involve a multitude of technologies. And what we are working on, along with the management team, is ideating on what that federated system with identified master data and its appropriate system as resident there would look like in the future to make it easier, cheaper, faster, and better for our customers. So that we are not ready to quite share yet in its crystallized form. But Joe, if you want to add some more color to that.
Yeah, I'll just say this topic, and particularly, with Polarian, we often get the question, are you going to bring Polarian and put that in the Teamcenter database? Would be an example of that. And we've innovated something called the Linked Data Framework, where we're able to trace data across these two systems. Our belief is that the life cycle of software is a little bit different than the life cycle of hardware, and so it's appropriate to have them in different databases. And we're building machineries and mechanisms to reach across different data stores and pull them together in a common interface. And we think that's a powerful technique. And when I talk to CIOs, most CIOs have hundreds, if not 1,000 different applications that they're managing. And so this idea that you'd be able to reach into all these different systems, find the data and pull them together in a consistent user interface is a very powerful idea. And with that, I'll just say, is that our, all right, well, I say thanks everybody for coming. I think it's been a great session. Get a chance, go down to our solution booth. I won't put Killian on the spot, but I'd say, why don't you go down to our solution booth and go VR? All right. Hey, we'll talk to everybody later. Thank you.